Welcome, ladies, to the Girl Boss Method. Today, we're going to talk about the power of sleep, unlocking your recovery, your hormones, and fat loss. And again, just going over how sleep impacts your body, metabolism, and ultimately your results. So, this is a thing when it comes to things like fat loss, it's really underrated when it comes to how important sleep is. Recovery is kind of obvious, but hormones as well, especially as women and women that are sort of entering new phases of life as well. Sort of as we transition from, sort of 30s into 40s and so on, we start coming into new realms as well, especially when we're thinking about perimenopause, etc. as well. So, hormones again and hormone balance. Um, Quite often, sleep is really a big factor in helping, renew that and balance things as well. And especially when we're thinking about hormones relating to, appetite, energy, that sort of thing, and maybe even things like other health issues as well. And we're thinking about things like insulin resistance and maybe even outside of this and just thinking about our feelings. So again, how we're feeling in terms of like motivation, our adherence to sort of sticking to exercise and nutrition. So again, yeah, if you've been struggling with any of these things, um, again, sleep might be the missing piece of that puzzle. So that's what we're going to be kind of talking about today. So again, some of the things that we might think of when we think about sleep. I mean, why do we need it? Obvious, it's obvious, right? We need sleep. Humans need sleep. We need to spend a period of our time sort of, the brain as well, digesting what's happened over the course of the day. We're doing lots of magic behind the scenes. We're recovering. So there's things going on with like neurons and stuff and also other processes within the body as well. How much we actually need as well. I think that there's always a big ask about that. We know that adult recommendations are somewhere between 7 and 9 hours. And I think if you were to put into Google how much sleep do humans or adults get on average, it's probably closer to 5 to 6 hours. So again, why are we struggling with it and why do so many people struggle with it? Is it something that's always happened throughout sort of human history, or is it something that's more apparent in recent times? Again, what is this? Is it stress? Is it work-life balance? Is it the fact that we've got things like, social media now and screens and stuff? So again, just thinking about all the things that might impact the reasons why this is not happening for us. So, yes, sleep is essential for fat loss and health. And often when we're thinking about fat loss, we often just use the whole, calories in, calories out. And again, whilst that's true, sleep is actually one of the biggest factors that influence this question because poor sleep is going to affect our hormones, it's going to increase our cravings, it's going to slow down our recovery as well from anything that we're, any activity that we're inducing. And it's also going to affect the way that our body stores fat. And if you're not sleeping well, your metabolism is not going to work as efficiently, therefore your body holding on to weight. Again, especially when we're thinking about our like midsection as well. And, there's going to be that increase in sort of water retention as well, related to weight too. So if we kind of take it to the points here, so we've got obviously things like, sleep regulating the hormones, like leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, and insulin. I'll explain what some of these things are soon, but effectively, ghrelin is the sort of hunger hormone, and leptin is our satiety hormone. Cortisol is obviously, again, related to stress, and then the insulin, you know, or the leptin again is going to help create that fullness, and the insulin is obviously something that we need to kind of think about when it comes to seeing, again, blood glucose levels, etc. as well. So poor sleep affects your cravings, your appetite, and that insulin resistance as well. So again, even with one bad night of sleep, that can increase the cortisol. It can lead to higher blood sugar, and again, more fat storage as well. And then when we're thinking about exercise, recovery, the recovery and the muscle repair happening during sleep, during this sort of slow wave sleep. This is where our muscles are going to repair and they're growing. And again, if you're training hard, but you're not sleeping, you're not going to see those benefits. And potentially there might even be some breakdown as well as, instead of the actual building that we're looking for. So it's really important that we're managing those things as well. Lack of sleep, as we know, impairs our decision making. We start making poor choices when it comes to food, maybe even poor life choices as well, making that adherence harder as well. So again, if you are struggling with, your weight loss or anything like that right now, we need to fix our sleep first. So it's always really interesting. We always think that there's some other sort of form of magic that we need to work on, to affect sleep, or I mean to affect weight loss. But quite often, again, it's just really coming back to the basics. So hormones and sleep. So why it's a game changer. So we've talked about leptin and ghrelin just slightly just then. Again, we're going to be controlling that hunger and those fullness signals. And poor sleep means more hunger. Again, you're going to feel hungrier and you're going to make poor choices as well. So what are you going to opt for when you are hungry? I know if I've had a rubbish night of sleep, I definitely know that I've experienced personally that increase in hunger. Again, you're going to start wanting to have things that, those cravings again are going to be louder, and you're going to be having things that create more comfort as well. So again, if that's, an increase of fat and sugary foods, then that's obviously going to happen. And then when we're thinking about insulin sensitivity, so poor insulin is going to increase the insulin resistance again and making that fat loss harder. So when we're thinking about sleep deprivation here, your body is going to struggle regulating the blood sugar and fat stores. You're going to lead to storing more fat as well. And then when we're thinking about cortisol, that's our stress hormone. Again, it's going to be elevated, increasing more belly fat storage, increasing cravings again. And then we're also thinking about growth hormone and testosterone. I know, again, these sorts of things, when we think about testosterone, we also almost associate it with men, right? Or their progress. Well, it's actually really important for us. It's essential for our recovery and, again, our fat burning. And these are going to be produced during our deep sleep. So if you're not sleeping well, your hormones are going to be working against you and, yeah, making, necessary weight loss or body composition changes. It's going to be much harder than it needs to be. So I almost think about sleep being at the top of the pyramid when we're thinking about anything to do with, balance within the body, balance with hormones, balance with making physical body changes as well. Sleep is at the top. So when we're thinking about sleep and insulin resistance and that sort of hidden link, yes, we've talked about the poor night's sleep, reducing the sensitivity, and again that chronic deprivation increasing the risk of diabetes and belly fat storage as well. But if we kind of take it back to what we think about or what we know about insulin resistance, so most people will sort of relate this to carbs and sugars causing insulin spikes. But often what's not realized is actually it's the poor sleep that is one of the biggest drivers towards insulin resistance. So if your sleep is bad, your body is going to struggle to process the carbohydrates properly, again, leading to that sort of chronically elevated blood sugar levels. And so why that insulin sensitivity actually matters is because insulin is going to be the key that allows glucose to enter the cells for energy. And when insulin sensitivity is poor, so we're thinking about cells, we're thinking about, muscle cells, maybe even, other cells within body tissue as well, fat tissue, muscle tissue. When that sensitivity is poor, more insulin also is going to be required. And then again, with this is going to kind of sit in that bloodstream. The blood sugar is going to be elevated, and it's going to make that all the more difficult to process. So when we're thinking about sleep deprivation, again, you can actually reduce your insulin sensitivity by up to 30%. And again, higher blood sugar levels within, higher blood glucose within the bloodstream as well. We're thinking about sort of higher risk of things like diabetes. Really difficult for people managing PCOS as well. And yeah, just all that stress and sort of sleep deprivation is not going to be helpful. So again, rather than sort of worrying about the composition all the time, when it comes to your food and having things like eating carbs and stuff like that, it's more important that we look at trying to reduce the chronic stress and the need for improving sleep, because that's what's actually going to help improve that insulin function and yeah, fat loss over time. So again, when we're thinking about poor sleep, yes, the stress is going to reduce sleep, and it becomes like a vicious cycle. So again, if you're feeling sort of quite wired at night and you're struggling to fall asleep, or wake up, and then you end up waking up at that sort of 3 a.m. again, it could be that increased cortisol as well. So that high cortisol, poor sleep, again, poor sleep again, higher cortisol, and it's just a cycle again. And then you'll also experience stress from the lack of sleep, increased cravings for again, more sugary or even processed foods. And again, we know that with these things that they will naturally be higher in calories. That's not going to be helpful for our cause. Less energy for your workouts, lower motivation, and slow recovery as well. We really want to try and optimize as much as we can with what we're doing. So yeah, the answer here is just all about sleep. So how much sleep do we actually need? So we talked about this at the beginning, sort of again, average for most humans about 7 to 9 hours. But again, we want quality sleep, and quite often when people think of sleep, they think of just going to bed and then waking up, and they don't really think about the opportunity that they're creating, or they only really think about sleep as being that time when they think about sleep. So getting into bed, if you get into bed at 11 p.m., you get into bed and you wake up at, let's say, 6 a.m., you might think in your mind that you're getting 7 hours of sleep, but you're not really. That's more of an opportunity window, because it's going to take time for you to fall asleep. Again, you might, feel unsettled over the night. That's going to affect how many minutes that are lost as well. If you wake up, you go to the toilet, or you wake up and you toss and turn, again, those disturbances are going to have an effect in terms of how much sleep quality you're getting. So it's really important that we try and maximize our sleep opportunity. So we all set an alarm at the beginning of the day, but maybe even setting an alarm at the end of the day. So even in my Google Calendar, I've got a little window, a little box to tell me to uh, turn off my laptop, put that away, to get away from my phone, to again, even within this, I've got little reminders to just say this is my opportunity to do stuff that is away from screens. So away from my phone, away from my laptop, away from the telly. And I know it feels boring because again, we've almost got this like addiction to wanting to know what's going on in the world. We want to see what people are posting, or maybe we want to see what's going on in the news. There's always stuff going on. But this might be the time where you just put a podcast on. Maybe you put some really nice, relaxing music. So sort of low. I think there's all these different waves of sounds and stuff that you get that kind of affect the brain in terms of the way that you relax. So that can be quite helpful. But just going around and ticking off the boxes, tidying up the lounge, cleaning your sink, getting clothes ready for yourself or your children or whoever in the house, just getting stuff ready, tidying up, maybe even planning for the next day, journaling as well. You could journal. There's loads of ways of winding down and almost looking at that opportunity for sleep as a winding down window. So creating some time, understanding how long it takes for you to settle down for sleep as well. And absolutely stay away from any sort of blue light, etc. Hours, an hour before you actually, minimum an hour before you actually need to be getting to sleep. So yeah, when we're thinking about these sort of deep cycles, these are going to be really important for, your fat burning zones, your muscle repair, your hormonal regulation. And you want to try and get to bed before midnight. Most of us get up, 5, 6, 7 at the latest. And it's really important that we try and get to bed, and maybe even thinking, I don't want to see the clock at midnight. I need to get to bed. And I know that it's difficult because there are quite a few ladies that do have slightly altered work hours, especially if they're working with companies that operate on different time zones. We've got some shift workers as well that are in the program. So I know, again, for those people, it's really important to try and maximize knowing when you do have opportunity for sleep and utilizing it. Not using it as an opportunity to kind of pick up your phone and catching up with stuff. Like, just turn off your notifications. Most of us have got, smartphones. I've got an iPhone and I can put on like a sleep or a do not disturb. Again, maybe even telling people, don't message me or call me between these hours unless it's absolutely necessary or important. So just sort of understanding the value in learning how to switch off as well. And yeah, when we're thinking about sleep, again, I did look into this like a while back, but I don't know if any of you have heard of it as well. But sleep cycles tend to be 90 minutes. And that might be something that might be quite helpful as well to kind of think about if you want to kind of program yourself and say, right, I want to try and get those 90-minute cycles nailed. When would be, again, if you've got the opportunity to play around with sleep schedules, you can have a go at this and kind of drill in, how many 90-minute cycles can you get in within a night and sort of aim for that. I know that sounds very a bit unrealistic anyway for most of us, but yeah. Okay. So when we're thinking about science-backed sleep hacks for better recovery, we can split this up into three or four areas. So thinking about environment, ideally you want a dark, cool room. You want to avoid any screens for sort of 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Having a routine as well. Oh, actually, before we go, yeah, no blue light. So 60 to 90 minutes before bed, making sure that you've actually got a comfortable mattress and pillows. So again, if you're traveling, I know this is unhelpful, but when you are at home, if you've noticed that your sort of, pillows and, mattresses and stuff are not very comfortable, again, looking into that as well and seeing what's going to help you. Mattress toppers and stuff like that can help as well if you can't change your mattress as well. So routine, having a fixed sleep and wake up time, Really important on the weekends as well. I know that most of us ladies are out of that zone of sort of all night partying. It's done. That was done for me like years ago now, maybe even a decade, it feels. Definitely before COVID for sure, before all the lockdowns and stuff. But yeah, just making sure that you're trying to stick to a routine. So even on those weekends, really, really important. It's so easy to kind of go, oh, I'll just stretch it out and maybe watch a bit more Netflix or what have you, 12, 1 o'clock. So easy for the hours or the minutes to just kind of pass by as well. And then you're waking up later and then it's not really helping you when it comes to Monday. So yeah, wind down routine, journaling, reading, maybe even doing a couple of light stretches as well if there are certain areas that you find that get stiff. So if your back gets stiff, or maybe you find that you're sort of quite stiff around your shoulders, especially desk-based working, just planting hand against the wall, turning, doing some stretches for your chest, maybe even doing some arm rotations and stuff to help open up these chest area. Another really good one is something called an arm opening where you lay on your side. Got this in the mobility section in the workout collection as well, but you'll just lay on your side, supported knees, pelvis stacked, and then you're just opening out and then just really trying to open out this sort of collarbone area. Those are really nice stretches to do. Maybe even just sitting in child's pose as well and breathing. Reducing your caffeine before bed, sort of again having a cut-off time. If you know that ideally you want to start winding down from like 10 or maybe even 11 p.m., then think about having that sort of caffeine time switch off. I know that a lot of people do sort of like a midday or maybe even on a very busy or a crazy day at work, they might sort of do a 3 p.m. as a cut off. Switching that up with herbal teas, especially because it's a bit chilly, bit on the chilly side right now. Having some herbal teas is good. Herbal teas you can put in again. You can have a dash of almond milk in there. That tastes quite nice. Or again, maybe other different ways of making it taste good if you're not a fan of herbal tea. I quite like herbal tea anyway. And then when we're thinking about nutrition and supplements, so, magnesium glycinate supports relaxation. Again, avoiding any heavy meals right before before bed. Because if you are heading off to bed, let's say 10 o'clock, and you're having a meal at 9 p.m., and it's a heavy meal, it's a 600, 700 calorie meal, or even 500 calories, just a big punch, you're going to spend more of your body's going to spend more energy trying to focus on digesting the food than really trying to get you into that sleep focus. Another thing that you can have is like a protein-rich snack if you're struggling with sleep, especially if you're hungry as well, and your meal was a little bit earlier. You could have some Greek yogurt or a light protein shake. So again, scoop of protein with water. I quite like just putting some ice in a glass and just doing a light protein shake, just for a quick feeding that can help. Um, Other things that I wanted to talk about actually with regards to food, you may have heard this as well, but tryptophan, which is an amino acid, is really good at helping produce serotonin and melatonin as well, which again are two really key neurotransmitters that help regulate your sleep. So when we think about tryptophan foods, most of us know that turkey is one of them, but for some of us vegans or even vegetarians, tofu, even tempeh, Greek yogurt, pumpkin seeds, oats as well. So I know we think of oats as being like a breakfast thing, but you can always change things up. Maybe you might have your eggs, avocado, or toast for your breakfast, and maybe as your late, your evening meal or small snack in the evening, you can have a small serving of oats or maybe even some Greek yogurt. Just something warming as well to help you settle, and it just feels quite nice. Again, making sure that it's not a massive serving. I mean, even as much as like 30 grams of oats, just a nice small serving, some almonds, some walnuts, a bit of banana as well. So again, maybe not the full banana, but just like a quarter or a half or something. Just might be quite nice to kind of, yeah, have a good last bit snack anyway. Right. And then some sleep myths. So quite often you think, well, just catch up on sleep on the weekends. I know that you can kind of bank sleep in advance, but you won't necessarily fully restore your lost sleep again. And so it could be argued that you affect your circadian rhythm again because you're not having that routine. You're suddenly at banking or creating more sleep at the weekend. And although you might feel fine on 5 to 6 hours, some people do feel fine on that, you're going to be affecting these other things that we want to focus on how you operate at work, your recovery, your fat loss opportunity as well. It's all those things. And when we're thinking about 5 to 6 hours, are you truly getting 5 to 6 hours? Do you feel good? Are you functioning well? Or is that caffeine masking your abilities? Are you having coffee to kind of, you know, give you that energy surge? And when it comes to caffeine as well, actually, try and avoid having it as soon as you wake up. Try and use the body's natural cortisol elevation to get you up. You will have a natural increase. Utilize that sort of first surge, if you like, of energy that comes in the beginning of the day, and then waiting for your coffee. So I try and wait for that sort of 60 to 90 minutes in the morning, just to kind of like almost delay that coffee, especially if you're someone that kind of ends up having multiple coffees over the course of a morning or the day. It might be quite nice to kind of delay that first one. It might feel a bit crappy or a bit groggy at first, but see how that affects you as well. And again, when we're thinking about alcohol as well, maybe this is a bit more of an older myth. This might be something, again, your parents might have believed in, that, alcohol helped them sleep. But again, this is going to disrupt your deep sleep cycles. It's going to make you feel, groggier as well. And again, when it comes to alcohol and sleep, are you truly sleeping with alcohol, or are you just becoming like, is it just a way of becoming unconscious? Are you truly getting into proper sleep cycles? So that's another thing to think about as well. So yeah, consistent quality sleep is going to beat all those sort of short-term fixes, all those short-term things that we try and put in as well. Why this matters? Well, when we are thinking about struggling with adherence, this again, a lot of the time it's related to that sort of motivation, your appetite. Maybe you're struggling because you've got PCOS, or there's, stress as well in your waking life as well. Fixing your sleep is going to help you. It might be the breakthrough that you need. So easier weight loss, more energy, and better results. And what I would really want you to think about is, with some of these things that we've talked about today, I hope they've been of value. And you can think of maybe even one or two things that you can start to do, maybe even implement it tonight. I know that quite often you ladies do want later calls because it fits in a little easier with lifestyle, with sending kids to sleep, or finishing work or getting other bits done. Again, it's another reason why we shouldn't be on that blue light so late as well. So getting off your laptop after this, getting away from phones, maybe even having a little phone time, and then just nipping it or just putting it away, and opting on for some really good habits. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful. And again, if I've come back to another slide, but yeah, just sort of to recap again, things that we can do to help create good sleep. So we want to think about our environment. So we talked about environment at the beginning. We talked about setting the stage for that by looking at, I think environment is a big thing. Looking at sort of temperature of the room, looking at getting rid of the phones, etc., switching off from that, maybe even doing some stuff to kind of keep your mind busy in the evening, doing other things, winding down, setting that routine, creating that opportunity as well. So that window of opportunity, thinking about, I often used to think, oh, 5 minutes, go and brush my teeth, I'll cleanse and tone, and, have a shower. And I just kind of think, yeah, in my head, that's 5 minutes. Well, no, actually, it's a lot longer. So maybe even time yourself and think about how long it takes for you to prepare for sleep, getting your PJs on, getting something ready for the morning, getting some water in, whatever it is, just thinking about creating that opportunity for sleep. You know, the point when you get into bed is not the point when you fall asleep. That's just a window of opportunity. So just think about expanding that as well for yourselves. Nutrition, as we talked about, tryptophan, amino acid, which is, again, if you are thinking, you tend to like to have an evening snack, then utilizing some better options as mentioned there. Again, I can copy and paste this into the group as well and get that list over to you guys as well. And then caffeine, ultimately just thinking about how we swap out caffeine, making sure we're not having, too much or too late, because all these things, caffeine actually has a half-life as well. So, when you drink your caffeine, half of it will caffeine, half of it will remain in your bloodstream for hours to come. So, thinking about all of those things too. So what we can do here, ladies, is we can break for and have a quick chat if you are up for sort of speaking on this recording. If not, we can stop and we'll have that chat over it in private in a few moments. But yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Drop me a message. You can find me at Ritu Bra. Send a message in the group as well if you're on the program. And we will see you here next time.